Chrysler Dodge Jeep in Carrollton, you'll be glad you did.
Online, ScottEvansUSA.com.
Do you need to sell your house fast? Ditch the Den buys any home in any condition fast. Ditch the Den is prepared to offer cash for your property, lightning fast closing with zero closing costs to you. Not looking to sell your home but know somebody who is? Ditch the Den is offering a $1,000 referral bonus. If you're ready to get paid for your property, give us a call at 470-729-2155. That number again, 470-729-2155. Or check us out online at ditchtheden.com to schedule your no-strings-attached evaluation today.
The stars are right in your backyard. Milltown Music Hall in Bremen is more than just West Georgia's largest concert venue where you can see America's favorite country and rock artists. Milltown Music Hall can be used for corporate events, conferences, or weddings. Plan your next big event or make plans to take in a show. Milltown Music Hall, just off I-20 on Alabama Avenue in Bremen, where the stars shine bright on a Georgia night. Visit MilltownMusicHall.com.
I gave a young couple a courtesy warning about an improper turn. Also told them to buckle up their seat belts, and they did.
Yes, ma'am. I want to report an accident. Is there anyone hurt? No, ma'am.
That same day, I pulled up on a rollover crash. It was the same couple I had just pulled over. They were standing outside their car, and they thanked me for telling them to wear their seat belts.
More than half the people killed in traffic crashes in Georgia each year aren't wearing seat belts. Many of them would still be alive today. That's why we say click it or ticket. This message brought to you by the Governor's Office of Highway Safety.
Summertime is the perfect time at Six Flags Over Georgia. So grab your friends, grab your family, and grab a great deal. Save up to $21 with promo code COKE at SixFlags.com and go crazy on the new Pandemonium. Go faster on Twisted Cyclone and go for a zero-G plunge on Tsunami Surge in our free water park. Go big, go Six Flags Over Georgia, thrill capital of the South.
And here are the region's funeral announcements for today, Friday, the 31st day of May, 2019. Lorene Barron, age 87, of Bowden, passed away Thursday, May 30th. Arrangements are incomplete at this time. Will be announced later by Martin and Hightower Heritage Chapel. In the meantime, send messages of condolence to the family of Lorene Barron of Bowden online, martin-hightower.com. William Eugene Mayfield, age 82, of Villa Rica, passed away Wednesday, May 29th. He is survived by his wife of 62 years, Jeanette Eileen Williams Mayfield, sons Randy Mayfield of Villa Rica, Danny Mayfield of Villa Rica, sister Mary Emily Mayfield Nations of Hiram, 8 grandchildren, Cody, Colt, and Heather Mayfield, Chase, Savannah, Natasha, Emily, Byron, and Trevor Mayfield. Also 6 great-grandchildren, Cheyenne Mayfield, Cohen, Caden, Cassidy, Cash, and Case. Several nieces and nephews also survive. Family receiving friends at Jones Wynn Funeral Home in Villa Rica, 6 o'clock tonight until 8 o'clock. Then again Saturday from 2 o'clock until 3. Funeral services will be conducted Saturday, June 1st at 3 o'clock from the chapel of Jones Wynn Funeral Home. The Reverend Thomas Long officiating. Interment will follow at Powell Chapel Cemetery. The Reverend Josh Nelson officiating. You may send messages of condolence to the family of Mr. William Eugene Mayfield of Villa Rica online, jones-win.com. Ms. Marcia Lee Wassam, age 70, of Carrollton, passed away Wednesday, May 29th. She was born in Miami, Florida, 1948, lived in many different places in the U.S. and Europe during her career in the U.S. Army, working in the Mental Health Division where she retired after 20 years of service. Obtained her bachelor's in sociology from West Georgia College. Spoke fluent German, was a classically trained pianist from a young age. Survivors include her daughter and son-in-law, Tanya and Peter Debick of Carrollton, grandson David Jackson. Family receiving friends at Allman Funeral Home, 6 o'clock tonight until 8 o'clock. Memorial service will be held Sunday, June 2nd at 2 o'clock at the City of Light, 3125 Presidential Parkway in Atlanta. 30340, the Reverend Dr. Paul Gretz officiating. Annulment will be held at a later date in Miami Memorial Park in Miami, Florida. You may send messages of condolence to the family of Ms. Marcia Wassam of Carrollton. Online, allmanfuneralhome.com. And those are the funeral announcements for today, Friday, May 31st, 2019.
Allman Funeral Home has been a staple in the Carrollton community for over 65 years. As the community has grown, our public safety services have grown with us to help keep local families and businesses safe. We at Allman Funeral Home would like to thank our public safety personnel for all they do for Carrollton and the Carroll County area. We recognize the risk they take every day and appreciate their service. Allman Funeral Home in Carrollton, sharing gratitude for our community.
Hello again, everybody. Mitch Gray with a look at sports. Mega honors last night for a pair of student athletes from the University of West Georgia. Fran Brim and Cade Marlowe, winners of the Gulf South Conference Commissioner's Trophy for the 2018-19 academic and athletic year. Could not have come to two more deserving youngsters as well. Fran, a senior golfer out of Germany, and Cade, a senior outfielder on the baseball team out of Tifton. Just incredible careers in the classroom. Both have graduated. Cade, in fact, graduated back in December, magna cum laude. Just an incredible run for both of these youngsters, biology majors, Cade in pre-med. And we'll give it don't be surprised next week to hear his name called in the Major League Baseball draft. In the entire history, West Georgia's been in the Gulf South Conference. We joined back in '83. Only two student athletes in the history of the program had ever won the Commissioner's Trophy. Lisa McGee, the basketball standout from Bowden back in the 80s. Everybody remembers Lisa. And Lonnie Edwards, basketball standout in 1998. And now these two youngsters win it at the same time last night down in Pensacola. Congratulations, Fran. Congratulations to Cade. While we're talking things going on the collegiate level, the NCAA softball championships, the World Series began yesterday. A couple of seeding upsets. Florida got beat by Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State will play Oklahoma in the winners bracket tonight. Arizona in extra innings with a home run to beat Washington yesterday. Arizona and UCLA play tonight. Winners bracket ball games there tonight. If you're into college baseball, this is a great day. Starting at noon, ball games all over the place in the NCAA regionals. There are 16 of them beginning around the country today, which means 32 ball games on the road to Omaha, and that includes regionals being hosted at Georgia Tech and at the University of Georgia. Both the Jackets and Dogs will play late games, Tech against FAMU, Georgia against Mercer in their regionals today. The Tech regional begins at noon with Auburn against Coastal Carolina. That'll be a good beginning of that. Florida Atlantic and Florida State playing the opening ball game over in Athens. The Braves will try to regroup after that fiasco against Washington earlier this week. The Detroit Tigers will be at SunTrust Park coming up tonight. Atlanta against the Tigers, the Motor City Kitties. NBA Finals began last night. Toronto outplayed Golden State and got the victory, 1-0 lead in the championship for the National Basketball Association. The Stanley Cup Finals in hockey resume tomorrow night, all even at 1-1 with St. Louis at home against Boston. And that's a look at sports on your Friday, and I'm Mitch Gray.
May I have just a minute of your time? I read something recently that says, the road to success is not straight. There is a curve called failure, a loop called confusion, speed bumps called friends, red lights called enemies, caution lights called family. You will have flats called jobs, but if you have a spare called determination and an engine called perseverance, coupled with insurance called faith and a driver named Jesus, then you will make it to a place called success. Now, I don't know the source of that little saying, but it certainly is biblical in many regards. Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life, John 14:6. For Christians, our failures are not fatal, and when we're confused, we have God's Word to guide us. Psalm 16:11 says, in your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Don't fall for a false, worldly view of success. True success is only in Jesus Christ and leads to eternal joy. I'm Chad Dollahite from the Bremen Church of Christ, and this is Just a Minute.
Your morning espresso starts right here. It's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
And the big news is after the 9.5-minute speech by Mueller, he had to go back and reissue his statement correcting what he said, saying, yeah, sorry, I know I said that we couldn't do this because of Justice Department guidelines and you can't indict a sitting president. But I didn't mean that because I said it on 5 different occasions in front of 5 different people that was not a factor. Why did you lie yesterday? Because you wrote out the speech. You knew what you were saying. It wasn't off the cuff. So what were you trying to do yesterday? And of course, the media has yet to focus on that major nugget. He literally backtracked on everything he said and nobody covered the backtrack.
The Sean Hannity Show from coast to coast later today.
Smoking is not about politics. It's about people. There are 34 million Americans that smoke. For me, Juul was a game changer because you switch to Juul. It's simple, it's satisfying, and no more smell. I watch people all the time. They run outside in the freezing cold and can be grabbing their cigarette. Well, with Juul, you'll take a quick puff and you're good. That's it. Now, Juul is designed with smokers in mind. From its form to technology, it's easy to use, no buttons, no switches, and the goal of Juul is to impact the lives of adult smokers by providing a satisfying alternative. Switch to Juul. You'll wish you had done it a long time ago. To discover the smoking alternative that is nothing like any e-cig vape you have ever tried, go to this website, Juul.com/Switch America. That's Juul.com/Switch America. Warning, this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical. Juul.com/Switch America.
National headlines, Georgia State news and sports, and the local stories you care about. News Talk 1330 WLBB, Carrollton.
Friday morning, everybody. Welcome to the WLBB Community Voice Program. Our show brought to you by Tanner Health System. News Talk 1330, FM 106.3. And this morning, we are streaming live on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. My name is Colin Worthington. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, you can see our guest here this morning. I'll introduce you to her. It was 4 years ago this month that life changed dramatically for her and her family. She lost her sight. 4 years later, she's still blind and deaf in one ear. Sara Claudia Tillman is now a motivational speaker, and we're definitely glad to have her back on the program to update us on the last 4 years, how life has changed for her. She's recently begun a blog, and as I said, she's a motivational speaker, done some things here locally, and we'll talk about all that, her view on life now, as it were. So good morning. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We are. Your father, Rick Tillman, and your mother, Sally Hudson Tillman, in the other room there. With us this morning as well. Well, first, take us back 4 years ago. It was May 5th, right? Or
yes.
It was early May 2015.
Yes, so May 2015. I was 20 years old. I had just finished up my junior year at Berry College, and I went in for a tonsillectomy. And after that, my mom, she actually slept with me that night, and woke up to me barely breathing and got me to the hospital and found out that I had lost my sight and lost hearing in one ear. We found that out a few days later when I was transferred to a different hospital. So in the blink of an eye, life drastically changed for me. I was, about to start my senior year at college. I was on the equestrian team. I had all these plans, and I quickly found out that things don't always go according to plan, and sometimes you kind of have to change your path a little bit. So I started learning Braille almost immediately, started learning mobility, technology, training, because I was devastated, but I knew I didn't want to just sit around for the rest of my life. And I think when you suddenly become have a disability, it just suddenly happens. You don't know what to do, and you have all these stereotypes that people with disabilities can't really do anything, but I never really had that thought. My parents didn't let me have that thought, so I knew immediately I wanted to get back to school.
And I said that's the key. You mentioned your parents wouldn't let you have that, and you didn't want to have it yourself. To be shocked with something like that, especially at very young age, 20 years old, and totally changed your life. Do you owe a lot of that to your parents? I mean, your upbringing.
Oh yeah. They raised me. They never really limited me in anything I wanted to do. I started riding horses when I was 5, and I was actually talking to my mom about it last night, about how nervous she was every single time I got on a horse, and how, she would see me fall off time after time again. And I told her, I said, well, thank you for letting me keep going. It's things like that. Like, even though she was scared, she let me keep going because she knew I loved it and it was good for me. So, they raised me to be very independent, strong in my faith too. That's a huge thing that's helped me.
Well, even through this time, I believe your father and your mother are still looking for, things to try and bring your sight back and your hearing back, still going through that process. But was there not a time ever where you were just, or there are times now still, to where you're just really frustrated and say, why me?
There's like every day, something little will happen. Won't be able to find something. I'll drop something on the floor and not be able to find it. And it is very frustrating. But I've learned to get over it pretty quick, because there's been days where I just want to lay in bed all day. And when I let myself succumb to that feeling, it just builds and builds and builds the depressed feelings. And when you let yourself just get encompassed in those feelings, it multiplies and makes things 10 times worse, is what I've realized. So as hard it is and as exhausting it is sometimes to have a positive outlook, that multiplies as well. So it's hard, but...
Sara Claudia Tillman, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. Can you talk about some of the treatments that you have gone through in the last 4 years?
Yes. So I think the last time I was on the show, I had maybe just gone to China. That was the first treatment that we did. We went to China for 3 weeks for a stem cell treatment. And then that was an interesting experience, overall. And then we also went to Germany. That was probably my favorite treatment, because I didn't have to stay in a hospital or anything. So we just stayed in an apartment and would go for the treatment every day. And that was an electric pulse treatment. So they would put electrodes, around my eyes and send these waves, I guess, through my brain. I don't know all the scientific terms, but
if there was any progress, that was the one that you felt like was made the most, right?
Yes, that was the one. After that treatment, I could see if like something crossed in front of my face. I could kind of see a shadow, but I still didn't have any light perception or anything. So it wasn't enough progress for them to let me come back and do it again. So those are kind of the two major treatments that we've done.
When you go to bed every night, I mean, do you go to sleep just thinking, you're hoping maybe the next morning you're going to wake up and you imagine what you're going to see?
Yes, I pray about it all the time, and I've thought about the things the first things I would do if I got my sight back, and they're all little mundane things. I think people think, I would want to go travel and see the Eiffel Tower or stuff like that, but I tell my mom and my dad, like, if I could see, I would just want to get in the car and drive myself to the grocery store. Like little mundane things, or sit and read a book. Little everyday things that I miss so much that I know everybody else can do and take for granted. So.
Well, I think you were probably pretty outgoing before the incident anyway. Did you have interest in being a motivational speaker for anything else? I mean, did you enjoy public speaking?
I hated public speaking. So I was at Berry when I had to take the, required public speaking class. And so Berry's a small school. So there were maybe 15 people in my class, and it still made me so nervous to get up and talk. So this is something that's come out of, my blindness. And I joke about it, that it helps not to be able to see everybody staring back at you. I can kind of pretend like I'm the only person in the room. So it's kind of nice. But yeah, this is definitely a new thing for me, the public speaking.
And again, public speaking now, so I'm guessing you're taking your experiences, now being blind, and using those as part of your motivational speaking. Can you talk about some of the things that, I'm sure there's hundreds of things that have changed since that happened, but what are some of the things that you're dealing with now that people should know about?
Well, I've kind of just had a whole new outlook on life, traveling, school, just everything I kind of deal with. I like to share how I do things because people are so curious about, how I enjoy traveling to new places and how I do my schoolwork, how I use technology and things like that. So I like to speak and kind of share my story, share my testimony a little bit and how I've overcome everything, but still how I deal with everyday tasks at the same time.
It started out at Barry. You're 20 years old. You were a junior when this happened?
Yes.
And so 4 years later, and you're about to graduate from the University of West Georgia.
Finally,
in December. Yeah.
Yeah.
I talk about that process. I mean, being a junior, you can see the end. You can feel like you're pretty close, but 4 years that it took. I mean, talk about that period as far as education.
Yeah, so 8 months after I lost my sight, I went back to Berry College and lived up there, in a dorm room by myself. So that was a huge accomplishment. And I completed my first semester as a blind student at Berry College. I only took 2 classes just to kind of get my feet wet. And then after that semester, there was some medical treatments we wanted to pursue. So I took the next semester off, and then I made the decision to transfer to University of West Georgia just to be closer to home in case anything else, came up that we needed to pursue. And at that point, I also changed my major to special education because I thought I might want to pursue that. And I spent almost 2 years as a special education major. I did all the student teaching. I was at Central Elementary School, middle school, and high school, and I loved it. It definitely took me out of my comfort zone because I had to go, learn all of the schools, how to get around with my cane. I had to learn all the technology because Central's a Google school. So I had to, get a Chromebook and learn how to use all that and just how to teach, just how to accommodate myself, but also accommodate the students. It was definitely a big learning experience. But, I've always loved psychology and the idea of counseling. So I was 1 semester away from graduating, and I decided to change my major back to psychology. So that's where I'm at now. I have 1 more semester, 3 more classes, and then I'll finally be done.
You talk about working with these students. Was it how different was it from maybe the 8-year-old students talking with you, and maybe how bold they are with their questions compared to maybe people in high school?
Yeah, it was so like the elementary school kids didn't. I don't know if they fully grasped that I couldn't see. So they just. It was nice because they just kind of treated me, like any other teacher. But they would still, they would ask, like, how do you sleep at night and how do you dress? Just curious questions. And then the middle schoolers were a little, they wouldn't really talk to me as much. Middle school's a weird time. So they would kind of just know I was there but not talk and not ask weird questions because they don't want to get made fun of. But then high schoolers, they that was probably my favorite group were the high schoolers, which is weird because high schoolers can be crazy. But I noticed that they, I think, were a little more attentive to me and respected me more because they knew I had gone through something so hard, because a lot of people thought, oh, she's going into the school, they're going to take advantage of her, which I'm sure, if I had become an actual teacher, kids would eventually get comfortable with me and try to do that. But the students I encountered, I think they really respected my difficulties, and they thought everything I did was just really cool, like how I could use my computer and Braille and all that. So
I want to do that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we come back from our break. Talk about the process of learning Braille, which is still fascinating to think that you talk about how it's harder to learn languages when you're older. So even Braille, I'm sure would be just as difficult for many people. But Sara Claudia Tillman, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. Again, it was 4 years ago this month. Life did change dramatically for her and her family, and she's taken that situation and turned it into a positive. She's interested in being a public speaker. She's actually doing that right now. She has a blog online. We'll talk about that as well. Questions and comments, feel free to call us this morning at 678-601-8255, 678-601-TALK. Again, we're also on Facebook Live this morning, so I'll take a peek there. Look for comments and questions that we'll pass along on this program. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice Program. Our show brought to you by Tanner Health System here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. And this morning we are streaming live on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. Don't know which one to look at, Joel. Joel Brock is handling the cameras this morning. Steve Graddick is punching the buttons in the studio. My name's Colin Worthington. Our guest is Sara Claudia Tillman. Talking about 4 years ago, she woke up. She was blind, deaf for 1 year. Talking about her recovery and how she's making lemonade out of lemons, so to speak. It's too easy to say it that way. Again, I encourage you to comment and post questions on the News Talk 1330 Facebook page. Justin Richards, great testimony this morning. Proud of how God is using you. No. Sally Martin, Germany, said, so proud of USC. Rick Tillman, he said, love USC. That's Dad. And Beth Acker said, looking good, SC. We do have a phone call here, so I'm going to go ahead and take that on line 2. Good morning. You're on the Community Voice. Yeah, good morning. You're on the Community Voice.
Good morning. It's always good to hear Claudia again. And Claudia, we have prayed for you a lot that God would heal you. And I was wondering, as I heard you speak, and I know you alluded to the fact of how this has certainly increased your faith, but when we pray and God doesn't answer our prayer, sometimes we have a difficult time putting that kind of, in our pipe and smoking it, so to speak. So I was wondering if you could talk with us about how you handle the fact that God could heal you but has chosen not to. Mm-hmm. I think it would help those of us who have dealt with unanswered prayer in our own life.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Carolyn. I'm going to go ahead and hang up on you, all right?
Thank
You're
you.
listening on the radio, I'm assuming. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a hard one. That's something I've definitely struggled with. But what I've learned is that when you pray for something, God might not answer that prayer, but he kind of answers it in a different roundabout way. So even though I haven't been healed physically, I feel like I've definitely been healed spiritually, and he's blessed me with so many other things, so many support systems, family, friends, a positive outlook that definitely comes from God. So and I still pray for healing, and I know now to say, if it's your will, and I know if he doesn't choose to heal me, it's for a bigger reason and a bigger purpose. So
imagine when something happens like this, when something happens, to anybody, it might be hard sometimes to try to rely on other people, and count on them to take care of you and do things.
Yes.
And if you have a lot of people with pride, may not let that happen. But I guess in your situation, probably can't help that. You need to count on people and rely on. How is family and friends? Have they all come through for you?
A lot of them have. It's hard. You definitely learn. You have to surround yourself with the right kind of people, and the people who will stay there with you and help you in the best way. So it is hard for me to rely on people because I was so independent before, but it's really also driven me to become as independent as possible. So I've learned how to do a lot of things for myself, but I've also gotten better at handing things over to other people too. So
you talk about walking with a cane. I imagine when you're by yourself, you need to have that cane out in public. How do people approach you? How do you hope they would approach you? If they see you, and people typically want to open a door anyway for a young lady. And how would you prefer people approach you or talk to you or ask if you needed anything?
I just wish people would talk to me. A lot of times people don't know how to approach me because if you don't know somebody's name, it's hard, and they can't see you. You don't really know how to get people's attention. And I never mind if people come up and touch me on the shoulder or whatever, so that I'll know that they're talking to me. But that's the thing. I just want people to approach me. People are very standoffish. I think they don't want to offend, and they don't want to say anything wrong. So a lot of times people will talk to who I'm with, like my parents or my friends, instead of addressing me. So that's a big thing.
All right, let's get into this Braille thing. How long did it take you to learn Braille?
So it took me about 1.5 years, ish. I had a wonderful teacher, Miss Pam Gossett, up in Rome. And when I was getting ready to go back to Barry, I was also doing mobility training up there with my cane. So I would go up there and have mobility lessons, and then I would have Braille lessons. And it was just like a little, school session. She would have little lessons for me, and I would practice reading and then practice, typing Braille on a Brailler. It kind of looks like a typewriter. So it was nice for me because at that point I wasn't back in school yet. So it kind of gave me something to focus on. So it made me feel like I was productive again. So I kind of put my all into it, and I think that's what helped me learn it so fast.
Do you are you fluent in Braille? Is that even?
Yes, I'm fluent, but if I read out loud, I sound like I'm a kindergartner. Yeah. I read really slow, but I'm getting better.
What do you see in your head when you're reading Braille? I mean, you're not seeing the words. I mean, are you seeing bumps on a page? Are you just feeling more? Or?
Yeah, I'm more feeling, but it's funny. If you watch me, I'll turn my head, just like if you're reading a book and you turn your head as you read the line, I'll do that as I'm reading Braille. So it's funny how, some things from my time as a sighted person come back, and as my fingers moving, I'll move my head, and so it's interesting.
Are there things that you're doing more now? I mean, we talk about with Braille. Are you reading more now than maybe you would have before? Because maybe you're not doing as many things.
I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but I use Braille more around my house, labeling things, labeling all my appliances. And then I read Braille. I have a little Braille note taker. So when I'm in church or in class, I can take notes on that. But I don't really sit and read Braille, novels, that much, just because I don't have time, and it takes me a long time to read. But
how easy is it to get Braille books?
You have to order them, and they're kind of expensive just because there's not as big of a demand, and they're huge. So I have a John Grisham book, just like a regular novel, and it's the books are about that big and that thick, and there's 5 of those that make up one book. So they take up a lot of space too.
Well, as we did talk about at the beginning of the show, you are getting into public speaking, and we definitely want to we'll take our final break here and come back and talk about that, and put a call out to churches or organizations who'd be interested in having you come speak. And we'll do that after this break. Again, if you have questions or comments, feel free to post them on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. We'll take a peek at those during the break and share them when we come back. We'll have about 8 minutes left in the program with Sara Claudia Tillman, Community Voice, brought to you by Tanner Health System here on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
.852, welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice program. Our show brought to you by Tanner Health System, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3. And this morning, streaming live on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. Our guest is Sara Claudia Tillman, public speaker now, is what we can how we can title her. I guess talk about you've already spoke publicly at some with some groups and everything. Talk about that, please.
Yeah, so I started speaking shortly after I lost my sight, mostly to Sunday school classes, youth groups, and then it started to expand to whole congregations at churches, and then to high schools, elementary schools, organizations like the Lions Club. I'm going to be speaking at the Kiwanis Club in Bowden in August. So it's just kind of grown, and I love sharing my story and just sharing how, when life throws you curveballs, how you can adapt and turn it into a positive, no matter how, tragic it might be.
And that's what do you appreciate the most from the audience? I mean, I'm assuming afterwards they may come talk to you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What do you hope to hear from them when you finish speaking?
Just that I've inspired them in some way. And I never want people to think from my story, I never want them to say, oh, well, she's gone through so much, I can get through this little thing. Because I don't ever want to convey the message that, what I'm going through is worse or bigger than somebody else's. I just want to show people that you can get through things. No matter how big or small it may seem, you can get through it and come out better on the other side.
Now, you do have a blog spot and a website where you're sharing stories. Is that...
Yes, so I've created a Facebook page to kind of promote myself and get more speaking engagements, and also to promote my blog that I've started. So you can go to Sara Claudia Tillman and like my Facebook page, and then get a link to my blog, which is at saraclaudia.com. And I've written mostly about travel so far, but it's also going to be lifestyle aspects, experiences, funny stories, because there's always something funny that happens to me on a daily basis. So,
like stub your toe.
Stubbed my toe, lost my dog the other night. That's a blog that will be coming soon. That was scary in the moment, but it turned out funny. So,
is there? I'm guessing you found your dog.
I did. I found him. He's okay.
Is there a blind community online or locally that you talk with and communicate?
There's not really that I communicate. I have a few friends in the area that we have a little group, between us, but I'm hoping to connect with more people and, inspire others and be inspired by others too.
You talk about your faith as inspiration or motivation, and if you're a public speaker, you do hope to inspire people. But who inspires you? Who inspired you before this happened, and is the same inspiration then? Do you still have that same inspiration now?
My parents really drive me. Just with their work ethic and how they've raised me, they're very inspirational to me. They've never really let anything get them down, and they've always been so positive growing up around me, and I think that's kind of what's led me to have this outlook.
Sara Claudia Tillman, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. As we wrap up our show here, have about 4 minutes left. You will graduate in December, yes. University of West Georgia, assuming you study this semester and pass your courses and everything. What are your plans after that?
So I've been accepted to graduate school at Liberty University for marriage and family therapy. So I'm trying to decide whether I want to do that or keep pursuing, public speaking, which I'm going to do anyway, but I'd love for it to turn into a full-time career. So that's what I'm hoping happens. The blogging and public speaking takes off. So,
well, somebody who may have watched the show today or listened to you on the radio, and if they were interested in having you come to their group or to their church, how would they get in touch with you?
So they can like my Facebook page, and all my contact information is there, but they can also email me at hellosaraclaudia@gmail.com. So that's hello, SARACLAUDIA @gmail.
Before we do go, this is something I've seen a commercial for a prescription. I guess over the last 2-3 years, 924. Is that where I guess where you maybe fall asleep and not? What is that? Is that something you're dealing with?
Is that when I think that's when people mix up their days and nights. Is that what that is?
924 circadian rhythm disorder. Is that? I mean, I didn't know if they. Right. I mean, they just don't know if it's day or night. And falling asleep. Is that something that you've had to deal with?
I never really struggled with that too much, so that was definitely a blessing because people told me that would happen, so I kept expecting it, but I never did. So
well, good.
Yeah, thankful for that.
All right, Sara Claudia Tillman, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. We do appreciate you coming by.
Thank you.
And do hope the best for you in the future. And anything else? I guess before we wrap up the show, you want to, you've given a shout out to Dad plenty already this morning. And
yes.
he shouted out to you as well on Facebook.
My new little nephew Charlie. I hope he's listening. I love you.
Very cute. Well, again, thank you for coming out this morning.
Thank you.
We appreciate you listening and watching this morning's Community Voice program here on News Talk 1330 WLBB. It was nice to take a break from politics this morning and catch up with Sara Claudia Tillman and keep us posted on your progress and graduation. And your dad talks about you all the time, so I'm sure we'll hear the news as it goes on. And keep us posted with who you your public speaking.
Definitely.
Well. So,
thank you.
All right, stay tuned for national news. That's coming up at the top of the hour. It'll be followed by local news. Glenn Beck is on the air. Rush Limbaugh, then Sean Hannity. That's our programming on News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. I believe next week on the Community Voice program, we will bring some political guests back. I already do have Alan Griffith booked for Wednesday. We'll try and bring in Ronnie Pate and Mark Sullivan for Monday and Tuesday of next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.